It's time for the Blazor Power Hour.
Welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
Introducing the Blazor Power Hour.
No, seriously, it's time for Blazor Power Hour.
Hey friends, it's time for the Blazor Power Hour.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
You're checking out the Blazor Power Hour.
Welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
It's time for the Blazor Power Hour.
Are you ready? Are you set? Got everything all ready to go? Let's do it. Let's do the Blazor Power Hour.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Blazor Power Hour. I'm Ed Charbonneau, your host, and today we're going to look at doing Blazor and integrating some CSS with our applications. There is a wonderful survey that went out over the last few months. It's been analyzed and the results are here, and we covered it on the podcast on Monday. We've got the state of CSS. It's kind of like the state of JavaScript survey that's done once a year. It's a really good resource for learning about new trends in CSS, and I thought I'd share some of the results before we jump into looking at some integration points with Blazor here. So one of the things in particular I wanted to talk about today is some of the technologies that are being used and adopted with Blazor. And one thing that stood out to me is I'm a big Sass fan. I love working with Sass, and according to the state of CSS, a lot of other front-end developers like working with Sass as well. It's sat here the highest by quite a margin in the adopt column on the analysis of technologies that developers are satisfied with using with CSS. So over on this adopt side, you can see Sass is a technology that's very highly adopted, high satisfaction, stuff to keep an eye on. It's something I've been using for nearly 5-6 years now at least. BEM is another one. This is not so much a technology as it is a best practice. We have styled components in here, which is similar to the CSS isolation behavior that you get out of Blazor. Not particularly a big fan of it, but we could talk about it today. I don't need to talk bad about it. It does have some benefits, so we'll take a look at that as well. We'll see how that aligns with Sass development. There's post-CSS too, which would fit in the same category. Post-CSS is another flavor of Sass. Now that might be putting it a little bit technically inaccurate, but it's very similar to Sass in the way that it functions. It has the same goal in mind. Some of the syntax is very similar, but its approach at how it gets there is a little bit different. Relies on a JavaScript build system. Another good choice. So these are all in the high adopt column. See, Bootstrap is starting to slowly fall off the radar just a little bit. This could just as easily next year around come up back into the adopt section, or fall even further below, or maybe even start heading towards the avoid section here. Never know. But they are working on a new version of Bootstrap. Bootstrap 5 is something that's being looked at and is in beta or alpha right now. So you never know where Bootstrap may lie. It's so close to this line. I think it's here to stay for a while. So let's get into some Blazor stuff. Let's see just how we can add some CSS to our application, what some of our choices are, and then I'll show you some neat tricks around how to work with front-end tooling in Visual Studio and in .NET applications. So first thing we need is a Blazor app to work with. So let's go ahead and create a brand new project. We'll call this one Working with Sass. We'll do some of that, or just CSS. Let's put CSS. We're going to do multiple things in here. And we'll take a look at some of the features that come out of the box first. Let's do a WebAssembly app. We won't worry about hosting it. None of that really matters a whole lot for what we're talking about. Let this spin up and we'll take a look at what is provided for us. The main thing we're going to look at is www root directory here. And we'll be looking at the shared folder because there's some examples in here of CSS isolation. So let's pop those folders open. And first of all, take a look at, we do have a CSS folder here, so we'll take a look at that as well. I want to open up the index.html2. And we'll take a look at what we have here in the index file. Hey, Timebender360, welcome back to the show. Nice having you. And let me know if this screen size is good enough here. I might need to zoom in just a little bit. Let me do that for you all. That should probably be pretty good, maybe a little too far. We'll cut the difference. All right. So in File New Project, we get 3 style sheets, it looks like, just out of the gates. I generally prefer to put everything in kind of a manifest file. I'll show you maybe how to do that in a little bit. But initially, we've got 3 JavaScript or CSS files that we're going to be using in this application. So we've got, first of all, our Bootstrap file. Bootstrap, this is the minified version. You'll find that here in the Bootstrap folder. We're not using any package management systems to pull in that Bootstrap file. It just comes with the template. So there's no NPM or anything like that currently installed on this project. We also have app CSS. Let's take a look in app CSS. This is some of the basic things that are in the application. It's setting up a font style, a couple button colors, and this Blazor UI error UI style. So if there's an exception that's thrown in the application, that's where the style for that error element exists. Not a whole lot going on in here. A little bit of validation, but it's only 50 lines of CSS. Not much. You also see an import statement up here at the top. So this is pulling in OpenIconic, which is an icon package for the web. So whenever you see fancy icons and like arrows and save icons, things like that, that's where those are coming from. That's included, and you'll find that in the folder here under CSS as well. So again, those things are pulled in just from the package template. There's no kind of package management system handling those things. So if those Bootstrap or OpenIconic are updated, you're not going to receive any of those updates. Usually it's not quite a big deal with CSS. There's not going to be any kind of like security issues or anything that pop up with CSS normally. So there might be some new like fancy features that come out in one of those frameworks that you're going to miss out on, but you also don't have the risk of accidentally overwriting something that you already created. We'll get into more of that in a bit. So the final one here is the name of the project, .styles.css. This is a generated CSS file that comes from the CSS isolation feature in Blazor, and I think this is going to possibly confuse some folks if they're not aware of what's happening here. So it's probably a good thing you're here learning about this stuff so you don't run into any of those issues. CSS isolation is a feature that I kind of sit on the fence with because it, to me, is an anti-pattern. It really overrides the C in the CSS. So you're taking the cascading part out of a style sheet. It's in the name of the technology, and we're going to eliminate part of that technology. So it's kind of strange to me, but it's here. It does have some uses, so we'll take a look at what it does. If we go down to our shared folder, we could see the files that build this, this style sheet. So I'm going to annotate this one more time here. And if we look at main layout.razor.css and nav menu.razor.css, these files end up getting placed in this CSS file here. So that's where they are in your project, and this is where they're referenced in the application when it's running. So that's the first step of understanding CSS isolation, is whenever you create a component CSS file using that razor.css suffix, it will get compiled, for lack of a better term, it will get generated into a CSS file that your application uses. Now, there are some key differences in that file. These are pretty involved CSS files. They are about 100 lines each. So let's look at something a little bit more basic. Let's create one of our own, and I can explain what's happening in that CSS file. So let's close these out. We'll do some tab bankruptcy and get rid of all these. Let's go to, let's continue in shared. We'll narrow this down, and we'll add a new component. Let's just call this hello component. Hello.razor. And all it's going to do is say hello. We don't need anything super fancy here. We'll change this to an H1 tag. I'll save that. And we'll briefly explain what it is that CSS isolation is doing. So let's go in here and add another file. So we need that CSS file. So let's add new item. We'll grab a CSS template here, and we'll just call it hello.razor.css. Now we have a CSS file that matches the name of the component, and if you look, it's nice and nested neatly beneath the actual component file itself. The only difference is I have the .css at the end of that file name. And Bald-Bearded Builder is joining us. They haven't shut me down yet, Bald-Bearded Builder. With this new scoped CSS stuff in Blazor, it'd be nice to add that the context menu get auto-generated for you. the context menu. Oh, the add menu, I think is what you're saying. Yeah, if you could right-click on the component and just say add CSS for this component, that would be nice. That'd be a nice add. I agree with that. Hello from the Brexit Dome. Hey, Mr. Magoo. Welcome. Welcome to the Semantics Dome. All right, so the H1. Let's target that H1. We've got here, let's put these side by side. It'll be easier to see for a second. Again, we're going to keep this really simple. So we have our H1 tag, and then we're going to color this thing. Let's give it the hot pink. Got to go with hot pink if you're going to make something stand out for an example. And then we'll add the newly minted hello component. Let's go ahead and replace this hello world here with it. So we have our hello component right there, and we'll go ahead and render that page out. We'll go ahead and run it. And hey, welcome to the show. Nice having you here. Easy is such a relative term, Mr. Magoo. So I'll have a quick rant. I have an easy plugin for Visual Studio, but Visual Studio dropped support for it, and it's completely broken. And no matter how many issues I file that the feature is busted, nobody gives it any attention whatsoever. So I think I'm done personally developing anything for Visual Studio until they listen to issues that people file. So we've got our H1 tag. Let's go ahead and inspect this now. Now here is the interesting part. If we look at our markup, we have H1 hello, and our CSS is just H1. But if you look at the markup that's rendered, it is H1 B dash some gibberish and the word hello. So what Blazor has done is it has generated this GUID style number, or unique identifier style number, and appended that attribute. That is a custom HTML attribute that it has added, and it's put that in the HTML or the H1 tag. And if we look at the color, the style for that, you'll notice a very highly specific selector that's being used. So we have our H1 and then these brackets, and inside is that unique identifier. So what this unique identifier does is it keeps people from accidentally overriding our precious H1 tag style sheet. Now, the drawback of this is if you want somebody to be able to change the color of that, you don't want to put it in that CSS isolation. This is very much the intent is to make sure nobody changes any of that. Let's see. Yeah, so you prefer Visual Studio Code for everything. Yeah, I know it's a trivial issue with that plugin that I'm having trouble with, but it's also making me wonder if I should start switching over to Visual Studio Code, where things are just a little bit easier and better supported, in my opinion. Can we use hot reload in Blazor .NET Watch Run so we can change the HTML and CSS and see changes without restarting the application? That's a great question. I think that is actually a possibility here. So let's take a look. Oh, there's an update. We'll do that later. Let's go ahead and check this out. So we do have .NET Watch that we can use. Let's open a terminal here. And the question is, can we use .NET Watch Run here? Let's give it a try. Let's make sure that browser window is closed out. So .NET Watch Run is it's kind of like a hot reload, but it's not. It's more of a hot refresh. It's going to refresh the entire application when it reloads. And something with the certificate's not working here. Should be able to get this going though. There we are. So now Visual Studio is watching the application run. So let's go ahead and move this down to like a split window. And we can see now if we make a change, let's try changing this to Hello 2. I'll hit save. And you'll see the browser refresh itself. So I was hands off there. I didn't touch anything. The browser refreshed the entire application and reloaded it right there in real time. Let's try the color now. So we were hot pink. Let's try a nice orange. And when I save that file, it has already reloaded and changed that color for me. So this is really important for CSS isolation. So that was a great question, Timebender. That was a really good question to point out because CSS isolation is built during, it's handled during build time. So we do have to build the application to see those CSS changes. And what the watch function on the command line will do is watch for the files to be saved and then perform that build and update that CSS for us. So good stuff. Great tip there. Appreciate that. So let's take this. I've got things in my way here. Let's take this back full screen again. So that's how CSS isolation works. It's generating that CSS file for us. Again, this is to intentionally make sure people do not override that color. If you want something that can be overridden, you can either put it in your main CSS file. There's also some other features. Let's take a look here. There is a deep selector that you can use. This is a pseudo selector that the compiler understands that will help you with things like child components. So there's an example here. It has a parent component and a child component. And if you want to update the h1 tag that is in the parent component from the child component, you have to use this deep selector. So this is where things with CSS isolation I feel get a little sticky. The anti-pattern starts to kind of rear its ugly head, and if you want to cascade things upward, you have to use that deep selector. So it's kind of tackling the problem in reverse of how the language is designed, which is kind of strange. But you can do those things. I've seen this with material UI child components. Yeah, there are frameworks taking advantage of this. There's also the React framework works very similarly to this. You might see these conventions in other frameworks and what do you call it, like libraries and tooling that aren't part of the Blazor ecosystem. So this is a kind of a pseudo standard, I guess, through the industry that's kind of been adopted through Vue and React and Angular. Let's talk a little bit about front-end tools. What if you did want to add something to your application, like, for example, a CSS library or a JavaScript library. Maybe you want to add some Sass tooling, those type of things. Well, let's look at some of the easy fixes first. Let's go into our CSS folder and let's convert app.css to a Sass file. Again, I'm talking about that state of the state of CSS we talked about earlier. Sass is still very big in the front-end development ecosystem. It was very highly rated for satisfaction and usage in that survey. So let's go ahead and convert this to a Sass file here. So we've got app.sass, app.scss, and we need to compile this into a CSS file. Without compiling that, the browser doesn't know what to do with it. So if I reload our application, some of the style sheets start falling apart. You can see the menu is kind of wonky over here. The icons have disappeared, that type of stuff. So our CSS file is gone. Matter of fact, you'd see a 404 in here for that. If we look at our error console, it can no longer find app.css. So we need to take that CSS Sass file, convert that into CSS. Once we do, what we can have is the ability to add things like variables and all sorts of nice features that Sass has in this file, now that we've converted it to Sass. So we need to compile this thing. I don't have any options here in my menu for that. I have to go get a third-party package to do this with. One of my favorites is build, the Sass build. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head here. Let's go to NuGet. I can find it there. Build web compiler, I think it is. And we can put this, yep, that's the one. We can put this package in our project and it will compile Sass for us. So we'll get this guy in a moment here. Let's go to the repository real quick, see if we can get a little README on how this works. There is a UI plugin that you can install. I normally have it installed, but I recently refreshed my Visual Studio trying to fix the bug I talked about earlier. And then we can do this compile on build support in our application as well. So what we need is a compiler config file. Let's go ahead and add the full package first, and then we'll talk about how the other, the build web compiler works. So if you want to add this, go to extensions in the upper toolbar here, manage extensions, and we're going to get that build or the web compiler tool and install it in Visual Studio. So you want to go to online web compiler. So this is just one of many tools that we can use. We'll go ahead and download that one. And then we have to restart Visual Studio for this to install. So it will only take a quick second, but it is going to install that web compiler into Visual Studio, and it will light up some nice context menus for us to use to add things to our project. Once it does that, there is another NuGet package that we can add. So if we built the application with web compiler and other developers are working on the project that don't have the plugin installed in Visual Studio, it will still build the Sass without them needing the tool. And it looks like something, my console in Visual Studio was stuck open. So this should only take a quick second to install. And then we'll have some nice context menus that we can use. Now, I personally use the NPM or the NPM package or the NPM tooling to do my Sass compilations usually. It's usually a little bit more cross-platform compatible. This is now, I believe, but at the very beginning it was not. Another good question, is there a way to change the generated IDs? So yes, you absolutely can change those. So going back to CSS isolation for a moment, there is a place in your project where you can set those identifiers. Trying to remember where this is here. I think you set it in your project name. Let's see. Custom scope identifier format. So yeah, you set that in your project. So in your CS proj file, you can add this item group and set the CSS scope to whatever your identifier should be. And then you can set a static identifier for your project. So I can put that link here in chat for you as well. So that went into the Twitch chat. Let me send that out to all of our viewers. No matter what platform you may be viewing on, you should be able to get that link as well. So another great question from the chat room. Thanks for that. There is also, it says, some third-party tools that support Sass with this as well. So it looks like there's some stuff that's popping up. Delegate.sass builder. This is the first time I've heard of this one. I just saw it when I was glancing through the documents here. It will automatically compile all Sass and CSS files during a CSS build. So there's that as well. That's in that documentation link that I just sent. So that's something else that is worth looking at. So it looks like there may be some good tooling starting to spring up that will help with Sass, with these files as well. Let's see. So if we're going to add Sass now, I can right-click on this, and I have a web compiler menu item now. So this is part of that package I just installed. And I can hit compile file, and this is going to generate a config file for me. And you can see it pop up down here. And it's really basic. And this is something I like quite a bit about this tool, is you have an output file, so you can send the CSS output wherever you'd like. By default, when you right-click through the context menu, it's going to drop the file in the same place that it found the Sass file. So now you can see the CSS is nested right there. That file's already been compiled. So as soon as I hit that web compiler compile file, it generated that file, the compiler config, and dropped the compiled CSS right there. So I've got my CSS back already. And then you can see I have my input file as well. I don't know why. Maybe this is just my personal preference. It always generates these output first, input last. I like these in the other order. I like to see my inputs before my outputs. I don't know. It just makes more sense to me. So I usually rearrange those two myself. Doesn't really matter where they show up as long as they're there, but I like them this way. Then we've got a recommendation here. Let's see. One library for NPM users is Hello Brian CSS Sass recipes with Node Sass. Let's see if I can open that guy up. We'll take a look at that and see what it is. I use libsass, I believe, for mine. So this is, sorry, I'm looking at it off my main screen here. This is what was just shared in chat. Compiles CSS, watches for changes, automatically updates with vendor prefixes. That's pretty cool. And it looks really simple to get going as well. Good stuff. I haven't seen that one before. So this one works well, and it's already there and implemented. I can run my application already, and I've just that quickly converted my application to Sass. So you can see my icons are back, and I can go in to my CSS file and make changes. Now the only thing is I need to physically compile this every time. So if I come in here, let's change what is something that is on the screen. Let's add something to this. Let's add a line here in H2, and in our H2, oops, H2, we'll go ahead and make that one, let's say that one's a deep pink, so it stands out nice. If I save that file and reload my application, oh, it did compile it. So Web Compiler is automatically compiling that file on build, so that's nice. Let me open my console. So that worked in real time as well. If somebody is working on this project and they don't have Web Compiler installed, they would not get that behavior. So what we can do is, let's see if I click on Web Compiler, enable compile on build. If I click on this, it is going to add a NuGet package to my project, and then anyone running command line, doesn't matter, I believe it's cross-platform now, then it will compile this on build. This is especially helpful if you're pushing this up to deployment, like on Azure or something, and the server is responsible for building those assets. Then you need a compiler on the server to do that. So let's open up the CS proj file. I'm going to come down here a little bit because I want you to see this. I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and say Web Compiler, enable compile on build. And it's warning me it's going to add a NuGet package. I'll hit yes. And there should have been a NuGet package added here. I don't see it. It says it up here. It says it's been edited, but oh, there it is. There it is right there. So it's added that package reference for the build web compiler. And that package is tooling that will update those Sass files. So it'll read the compiler config.json, it'll find that Sass file and make the CSS file every time I build, no matter whether I'm in Visual Studio or I'm in the command line or on a different operating system. Can you mix and have normal CSS in the Sass file, or do you have to separate them? So let me go back for a second and show you how this worked, because you might have missed it. It was pretty quick. I'm going to go and let's take these files and unnest them, and I will delete my CSS or the minified. I'm going to delete the Sass file. I'll delete the Sass file for a minute. And the way I created that Sass file was just simply taking the CSS and adding an S to the prefix. And just that easy, you can convert a CSS file to Sass. So what that means is, to answer your question, and let's see if I've got, there we go, get that up on the screen. Can you mix CSS within a Sass file? Absolutely. CSS and Sass are any CSS is valid Sass. So you can take CSS files and just convert them completely by just adding an S to it, and then begin using features from Sass within that file. You can't take Sass and put it in CSS because it has things that don't exist in the language. So what we can do here is, now that we have our Sass enabled, we can come into our file and we can set up variables really easy. And I'll just do one simple one. Just to show you how they work, in case you haven't seen this before. So we'll go ahead and set up a variable here. Normally wouldn't name it color, but again, this is just a very basic example. So we could come in and just set that color throughout the file, like that. Let's see if I did this right. Yeah, so that worked. So this is one of the reasons I like Sass so much, is now we have a color for that value, or a value for that color. So now I can come up to where it says deep pink, and I can change it to purple, for example. Then come back and refresh the page, and notice both of those items changed. I didn't have to go through each individual item and change their colors because that value has a variable. So you already made my point for me. Thank you. This is extremely helpful if you're making themes for your site. This is something that you can use to roll like a light dark theme. I may have showed this on the show before, but I'll show it again here. You can get really advanced with this stuff. I have a project up on GitHub, on the Telerik GitHub page, called Blazing Coffee. And this one is very highly architected with CSS and Sass, I mean. It follows what I consider the best practices for writing Sass. And you can see here, we can easily toggle the theme. Here, let's look at we have a dark theme. Everything's kind of a darker tone. Let me log in so I can get to different pages. So I've got kind of a dark sidebar here. Some of the outside panels, I guess you call them, or cells that are dark. All the grid rows and stuff are dark. But I can easily come up here and toggle the theme for this application and make that a light theme. And the entire application is converted to a light theme. This is all done with Sass, and I lost my second monitor for a second here. I apologize. I can't see my chat room when it does this. There we go. All right, so you can do that. Some of the other neat things that you can do with CSS like this is I can auto-detect my operating system and get the theme from the theme choice, dark or light, from my operating system as well. So that's in that application. Let's put a link up to that as well. Let's see, it is on GitHub. It's on the official Telerik site. under Blazing Coffee here. You will need a free trial of TellerQF or Blazor if you want to check that out. Hey, Chris, we are talking about Sass and CSS in Blazor and some of the features that we can leverage with Visual Studio and Blazor to do Sass development. I was just showing off a project that I built that uses Sass. Looks like you came in a second late there, bud. So I don't know if I've showed you this before, but we have automatic theme detection through the CSS media query preferred theme color, I think is what it's called. So we can auto detect our operating system theme. So if I were to come into Windows here and go into my theme page, let's see, what is this under? Color? Yeah. Changes to light. And go back to my application here and just refresh the page. It's going to automatically pick up that preferred color scheme. Thanks for correcting me there. It'll pick up that media query and tell my application to theme itself as a light theme application. We'll toggle that back to dark. Go ahead and close that out. Refresh our app, and then our app goes back to the dark theme. And that's something the user can override if they need to override that. So they have settings to do that. What's nice though is the reason this is even possible, not only is that media query a huge help, but the Sass architecture lets me do all of that. And then I'm a big fan of the dry principle, do not repeat yourself. So I actually only have one theme in my application. The rest of the coloring is done through variables. So you can see in here, I've got all of the components that make up my theme, and there are two main files here. These are what I call my manifest files. And I'm going to jump into main.css. So main CSS imports all of the dependencies for that theme. The first one being variables. So if we look at variables, I have all of the colors that go with my site in this theme folder or module. Then there's an if statement, and if I set a flag that says it's the dark theme, it's going to go ahead and override some of those base colors. So both the light and dark theme are handled in this theme file. That's our variables file. That's only 50 lines of configuration here. So instead of writing hundreds of lines of CSS to make two different separate color themes, put all the variables in one file. And then, so that was main.css. So I'm going to call the same main.css here. So I have main.dark, main-dark. I'm going to import main, but this time when I import main, I'm going to set the dark theme to true and override some of those colors. So that will emit two CSS files. I'll have a dark and a light CSS file, which you can see right here in my CSS folder. These are the two themes for the application. They're built from one set of files. They're not separate, completely separate themes that I have to independently manage and maintain. Am I dynamically recompiling CSS using that NuGet package that I showed? Not during runtime. So these are built at build time. At runtime, it's just picking one CSS file or the other. It'd be nice if the user could select their color. However, you would need to use CSS variables for that. And at the time I built this, that wasn't an option. You could technically do that now, but I would have to re-architect the entire thing from scratch. There's a new CSS variable feature that's not been widely adopted until probably, this year? Maybe Salt, but CSS vars are pretty mainstream now. You can do some of that stuff, but it's a lot more difficult to do with CSS vars than it is Sass. It is possible. Maybe that's something I need to try sometime. For this application, I'm actually using no, I'm using web compiler here as well. I was going to say, I thought I was using the build web compiler, or the libman or libsass. But let's take a look at that. Let's go back to our project, the little project. We'll close Blazing Coffee. It's quite a large project. We've got just a few minutes left, so I wanted to show that we can use traditional front-end tools with our Blazor apps as well. So if we wanted to bring in some CSS to our application, maybe we want to install Bootstrap from NPM, things like that. We can totally do that. If we have NPM on our system, we can do these things. So I'm going to open a terminal again here. So let's get our console up. And let's see, can we zoom the font for this? Okay, I'm going to have to type it and then zoom. I can't really zoom in here for some reason. We don't want to install Bootstrap. Give me a better example then. What is something CSS that we can install from the web? And we will install it. Let's do an npm init. We need to tell the project that it's going to use npm, nothing. You're just the write it all yourself guy, I know. npm init, it's going to walk us through the usual. I'm going to smash enter to keep this short and sweet. So I ran npm init. So I did that from Visual Studio. I never had to leave the comfort of Visual Studio. That generated a package.json file. So now I have package.json here. I can either manually add things in the package.json file, and I have IntelliSense here. So I could create a new section to list out my dev dependencies. So maybe I have some things that I want to add for front-end tooling in this section, and I can add here. I think it's trying to do this off the top of my head. It is libsass. Is it lib-sass or libsass? Lib. Oh, come on. Let's try a little Google search here. Go to npm.js. I thought libsass was the one that I use. Maybe I am doing this wrong. This will help me find the right installer for it. Node, there we go. Node Sass, my bad. Node Sass is what I want. Node Sass is the version of libsass that I want to use. So I can go ahead and get Node Sass and then grab the latest version. I have IntelliSense that's going to help me complete those things, and if I save this file, it should automatically install that. The next thing I would need to do is write an actual script. Oh, and thank you. I just saw that now in the chat room. So Node Sass is installed now. To compile the CSS, I need to create a script for it. Let's just do Sass. We'll call Sass, and then let's see here. I'm trying to remember the command. The command for Node Sass. Install. We could create a config file. We really don't need all of that. I believe it is just Node Sass. I'm failing the exam. Let's see here. I think it's just Node Sass. Let's see if I can clear my console. It'd be npm run. Let's see. Trying to remember the exact console command for it. It's hard without a reference project. I don't remember these things off the top of my head. We put a script in here, point to the CSS file, and you can run it that way. Did we get the right command here? Let me check. I know it's something really simple. I know I've got this in one of my other projects. I'm looking for the without doing a config file for Node Sass, you can just run it. Let me go to a traditional console here. This one in Visual Studio is kind of hanging me up. Once you have these things built, you can do them very easily from Visual Studio. It's kind of a one-time setup. That's why I don't remember, because you set it up once and then from then on you just run the command. Node Sass options. Oh, thank you. So it is just Node Sass. All right. So we should be able to do that. So we write this out. Then it is Node-Sass. We can pass in the files. It looks like there's some error here. Node Sass is not installed. That's why I'm hitting an error on the command line. So we do Node Sass and then the file names. Let's try this real quick. So I'm going to save that again with without the script there. This console is not working well. I'm going to close this console out, and we'll open another console that we can see better, one that I can zoom in on. There we go. Now you all should be able to see what I'm doing. So npm install. We'll make sure that Node Sass is installed. Again, this is a one-time operation. Once you get this going, it should just work. It doesn't like that either. All right. Oh, you know what? I did that. I think I did that wrong. It is npm I believe this needs to be installed globally for it to work properly. This is one of those global installs. There we go. Now I have access to Node Sass. So I needed a global tool. So -G will make that a global tool, and then what we can do is point it towards those files. So we'll say node Sass, and then it is in www-root app.scss, and then we want the output to be, whoops, I keep hitting enter by accident here. Like that. It doesn't like the way I'm writing these directories. It may want quotation marks, I'm not sure, or I'm putting the slashes backwards. But we should be able to specify the input and output here. And just get our file created. It says I'm trying to compile a directory. All right, it's not cooperating. Or I'm not doing it right, actually. I'm doing this very poorly. I may have something wrong with the pathing that I'm trying to use. Don't want to hang this up too long looking for the solution. Once you get it set up, you create your script. We'll do, this one already has a test script in it. We'll go ahead and just duplicate this. I can't remember the actual Sass, and my monitor just turned off on me. The demo gods are not happy. My other screen just gave up and closed out on me here. So I don't even know how to get that back at this point. Let's see here. I have to disconnect it to get my, I lost various windows when it did this. So my studio window, you can see doing a hollow mirror effect here, disappeared on me for a moment. So again, I angered the demo gods by not knowing my command line tools. What I wanted to show, hopefully you can all still see this. We'll pretend this is our Sass script here. I'll need to look that one up. I know it's really simple and I'm just not thinking through it correctly. It's something like node Sass input output and it should just work. But I am not getting something on the path right, so we'll just echo a message here. And I want to show off another tool here. So there's something in Visual Studio called Task Runner Explorer. And if you don't know where to find this Task Runner Explorer, I've got mine parked right here. Task Runner Explorer. If you don't know where to find this, go up to search and just type Task Runner Explorer. It will show up. Then what we can do is go to extensions again. I'm going to go to manage extensions. And in here, I'm going to type npm. And you can see I have npm Task Runner Explorer, or npm Task Runner. I'm going to go ahead and install that. Let's go to more information so I can get a link to what I'm installing and share that in chat. This is what I'm looking at here. There we go. That link is being sent out to all of the chat channels. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I have to restart Visual Studio again because that's how it installs plugins. You'll notice the Task Runner Explorer here. Hey, Sudoku, welcome. Thank you for the raid. Did you raid me or, let's see. I lost my console. Who did the raid come from? I apologize for that. I don't have my Twitch console because it blew up on me. I wanted to give a shout out to whoever that raid came from. The technology gods have been mean to me today. They keep shutting off one of my monitors, and I lost one of my tabs on my browser because of it. Let's see if I can get that tab back up. Oh, it was Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the raid. Much appreciated. So raids are when another Twitch channel is done streaming. They will send viewers to another show. So Jeff was kind enough to bring his viewers to my channel so they could watch me try to fat finger a script that consistently failed and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And tabs that broke and all of those things. No. So I just got done installing a plugin for Visual Studio called NPM Task Runner. So I'm going to go back to our app that we were looking at. So I've got this package.json file. Let's see if this will... It's still loading things in the background. There we go. So now it's up and running. So I just installed this extension. Yes, Sarah, that is the correct link there. I gave that out in chat a few minutes ago. It looks like the raid came in right after that link got shared, so thank you for sharing it again. With Task Runner in Explorer installed, I can pick my project from this dropdown, and I can inspect the package.json file, and any scripts that it has available will show up in here. So if I wanted to run my Sass script, which I need to write, because I couldn't remember the syntax for it, we'll get to that in a few minutes again. I can double-click on this, and it will run in the console window to the right. So I can do npm install with just a double click. I can run test scripts with a double click and updates. You get it. My Sass compiler that I have with the build web compiler is also listed in here. So that is showing up in my window as well. So I can run those compiles from this task runner too. So it's nice to have all my package.json stuff listed here. Let's see if we can get this Node Sass thing working now. So this one should be node, it'd be npm run, or no, it's node Sass, and then it should be the directories. So it would be /www.root/app.scss, and that should output app CSS. And I'm probably going to get the same error because I wrote it exactly like I did before. I save the file. You can refresh if you ever need to here. For some reason you get out of sync with what's being displayed. Let's go ahead and run that. And it has the same there's some error here where it's saying it's not installed correctly. Let's clear this window out just for a second. So that it will put all of those things in a tab as well. Let's look at the error message here. Missing binary. Missing binding for could not find environment. Oh, this is a fun one. The environment has changed since running npm install. So let's try. So npm install worked, but this did not. It was working on the command line. It wasn't compiling, but it was working on the command line. Let's try pulling this deb dependency out real quick. And we'll, oops, I forgot to save. Let's try to install that again. And yeah. So this could be a Visual Studio thing here. And if you look into, let's do, I'm trying to remember where this is at. There is a setting in this, there's a setting in Visual Studio where it will look for your paths for tooling. And sometimes if it's looking under node modules first, you can run into some issues with these global tools. Let's see if I move path to the top, if this resolves the issue. I don't think I need to restart Visual Studio. I may have to restart Visual Studio. So now I'm getting a different error message. And this is the one I was seeing on the command line. So before it was telling me that there was a mismatch in the version of Node versus the tooling that I had available. So it was Visual Studio comes with its own version of Node, and I have a version of Node on my Windows machine as well. And sometimes those two versions won't play well together. They're different version numbers, and then you'll install a new npm package, and it will try to run on the older version of npm that's included with Visual Studio, and it'll error out. So if you go to your search bar and type in npm, you'll find this third-party configuration under Web Package Management External Tools. Bump your path up to the top. That means that the npm on your system will hit first before it searches anywhere else. And that will resolve some of your issues sometimes. So a little bit of a tip there. So it keeps saying an output directory must be specified when compiling. Let's go ahead and look at the let's see. Let me double check real fast again. I think I have in my personal projects, I have this set up somewhere very simply. I think Blazport may be the one that uses Sass. And I already have this configured out somewhere. And nope, I have Web Compiler there too. So you can see I use Web Compiler quite a bit. Let's try my personal site. I know I've got this file just sitting somewhere where I can just grab it and stick it in the... yeah, that one has it embedded. All right. We'll have to do the old go to the docs and just read. Go back to npm, node, Sass, and look at the docs here. I know this is very dead simple. I don't want to set up a whole config file again. I don't think that's under CSS, is it? Oh, it is under C. Oh my gosh, that's what I was doing. Are you serious? That's probably it. So it's just me reading this path wrong. So it can't find the file. It should be CSS, as pointed out. I was thinking that one was directly under the root for some reason. So we'll save that. And then run Sass. And that worked like a charm. All right. So if I come in here and delete, let's take out this compiler config. So that was using web compiler. Now we're going to try it with the Sass npm compiler. Go ahead and remove the CSS file, and then if we come down and double click, we'll double click on the Sass tree node here, and let's close this. You'll see in this window it will compile that Sass file. So if I double click, it's running this script here on line 8, and you can see the output CSS file there. So while we do have web compiler that does this with Visual Studio and .NET just fine, if you're working with front-end developers that prefer their Node pipelines, Node is completely and totally plausible for a Blazor application. And if you're in Visual Studio, you can control the compiler, or you can control your npm scripts with this Task Runner Explorer. So you can click to run, which will do the command line activities over here. Anything that is in the scripts section will show up in this this block here. You can click those and run them. So that's super handy. It obviously takes a little bit of setup to get that working, but it's a one-time thing that you set up. Once it's there, it's really easy to manage and use. Another thing that's nice here is you can see all these bindings over here on the left-hand side, or right-hand side, or middle, I guess, the middle right-hand side. If I wanted this Sass compiler to run automatically, I can right-click on this, and I can say bindings. I can run it before build, after build, etc. I'm going to run it before I build. So I'll go ahead and run that before I build now. And notice this little section here it adds, and it's saying for Visual Studio, we're going to add a binding before build. We'll run the Sass script. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to close that. Don't even need that anymore. I can minimize this now. I'm going to delete the CSS file, and I'm going to build the project. So watch this section here as I build. And it didn't list it. Let's see. It may be hidden. It is not hidden. So it did not work. That's interesting. Why did it not work? I can see that it's there. It says before build. And the demo gods are punishing me again today. Let's try build solution. Maybe this is something, again, that broke in the latest update of Visual Studio. Let's see if there is there is no output either happening. Usually it will say in here, maybe because this, it's still looking at build web compiler. Let's try taking that package out. it's still trying to run that. Let's take a quick look at our tasks again. Let's do the click and run scenario. Okay, if we click it, it runs. Let's delete this. So I did add a binding to do this before build. Let's try it with this build and run process. And it did not work again. So it looks like that may be broken for some reason. Visual Studio is just fighting me today. It wants a fight, it's going to get a fight. Let's try again. Let's try a different binding. Let's do after build. Before build looks like it may be bugged. This isn't giving me a whole lot of hope in this process. It's worked in the past. I don't know why it's not working for the show today. Let's try after build. I'd rather have my Sass built before build, but maybe there is nothing for it to build is the problem. Maybe I need to make a code change for this to work. Let's just go anywhere and I'll just add a space to see if that will trigger a rebuild. Build succeeded, so I know a build actually triggered. No Sass file. So something, again, is mysteriously just not working for me today. I have used this in the past to success, so I don't know why it wants to make me look foolish on a live stream, but that's what it's doing. Let's see here. It could be something to do with this compiler config too that's still sitting here for some reason. Let me try one more thing. Let's restart Visual Studio. Maybe some of those buggy things will go away. Oh, there's a task runner for VS Code as well, it looks like. Let's see, we'll update that later. I use this Task Runner Explorer with TypeScript as well. And I have all of my build processes set up with that, and it works fine. There is an update pending for Visual Studio as well. Let's see now. I don't have a Sass file. I just reloaded. And no, it's not running in there. You would see, oh, it did run. Okay. Restarting Visual Studio seemed to do the trick. Something was hung. So you can see the CSS file. It did come out. Oh, wow. Okay, so normally you don't have to jump through all these hoops, I promise. This is a little quirky today. The demo gods are just angry as all heck with me. So you can set up bindings before, after, and on clean. Clean is super handy if you have something like, in one of my projects I have TypeScript that gets turned into JavaScript to run tests. Then those JavaScript files are no longer needed because they're unit testing JavaScript files. So when I clean the solution, I want to dump those JavaScript files that I'm not using at runtime. So there's reasons to have those different processes for your bindings. So those are super helpful. And then you have a tab also to look at all of those bindings. So if I put, say I do install, want to run an npm install before I build, and this is being really flaky today, because now it's not going to show. It's not going to show the package.json file. Oh, and that was wonderful. It completely lost that section. maybe you shouldn't use Task Runner Explorer. I've had no problem with this in the past. I don't know if it's Visual Studio, this update pending maybe is fixing some of these things that are broken. As I said at the top of the show, there's a project of my own that I have for Visual Studio that just flat out does not work anymore in the latest update of Visual Studio. So it's not a surprise that some of these things aren't working too. Let's try this again. So if I wanted to run this before build and this before build, there it goes. You could see those two items are here in the VS bindings, and then if I had maybe test was going to happen, let's pretend test is something else. If we wanted to do this after build, you can see in the bindings window where all these things show up, and we can control those through the bindings window, which is handy if Visual Studio doesn't bug out and erase them all randomly for you. Yeah, that just happened. So when it works, it's a great tool. When you're not live streaming, maybe it'll do what it's supposed to do. So I should probably install this Visual Studio update. Maybe that'll help fix some of these problems that we're having today. Hopefully you found some tips and tricks that you can use when you're working on your Blazor applications. There's a lot of opportunity for using typical front-end tools that you may run into a need for. Again, I use some TypeScript for working with JavaScript interop. I use Sass, so NPM still shows up once in a while in my projects when I need to do some of these things. Sass is really cool because of variables. CSS variables are very much a thing. Screech Rat, you showed up at the end. We looked at Sass, we looked at CSS isolation and Sass compilers and NPM packages and some tools for Visual Studio. And then you saw a lot of demo fails. You missed all the demo fails. It's been a train wreck. I'm new to coding. What would you suggest I start with? That's a great question. One of the things that you can do is there's a lot of online tools. So there's try.net. Let's see, there should be one with samples. There we go. So there's try.net. So the .NET language is wonderful. I prefer .NET myself. You can do a lot with it, and there are lots of tutorials up on try.net, and you can run them right in your browser. That's a good place to start. Let's see. Is it Code Academy? This is another good resource, Code Academy. Step-by-step interactive tutorials at Code Academy. That's a really good one. I like that one a lot. That one has JavaScript and some other things that you can learn. You can see the list of languages down here at the side. HTML, CSS, there's all sorts of stuff in there. Code Academy is a good one, though. Like that one a lot. It's been a long time since I've been to Code Academy, but it does a lot of interactive examples, which is great for learning. Let's see here. We've got another show coming up, and those are great resources there. Treehouse is another favorite of mine. Treehouse is pay, but it's worth the money. Treehouse is fantastic especially for newcomers. So highly recommend that as well. Let's see, we've got other shows coming up here today. If you're new to coding and you want to learn, Alyssa Nicole has a show today at, I think, 3 o'clock. Let me double check the time here. I'll find that out for you real fast. She's doing some coding with her sister. That her sister is going through school to learn to code right now. And they're going to do some pair programming in just a bit. So that would be a good opportunity to learn as well. So she is streaming this afternoon. There we go. Let's get the schedule up here. She's on at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then TJ is here in just an hour with his React Wednesday. Looks like he's doing some MongoDB today. So stick around to this channel throughout the day for some really good shows. With TJ just an hour away, let's go ahead and do a quick raid. And then don't forget to come back in just a little bit. Let's see, who do I have that I can raid? Don't know if any of my friends are streaming right now. They're not showing up on my list of live coders. All right, I don't have any friends that are active right now, so we're not going to do a raid right this minute. But I will say thank you for joining me. Yeah, make sure you hit follow, subscribe, appreciate all that. And we will see you. Oh, sorry, I have one last question here I saw come up in chat. Does Sass work with Blazor Server as well? Of course, these are build time. Development time tools. So they all work no matter if you're deploying to server or WebAssembly. So that is a definite yes. So thank you all, and we will see you later this afternoon. I also have my stream on Fridays on my channel, so just find me. Here, I'll pop a message in chat for that as well. It is under my name, and my monitor is going to go blank on me again while I'm trying to type it. So I'll just do this blindly. You can find my channel on Friday at noon. I do another stream there, and if there it finally went through. You can follow that as well, and we'll do some more Blazor. Still working on some JavaScript interop on that channel, and it's been an interesting project, let's just say that. Thank you again, and stick around, and TJ will be up in about an hour now. So take care, everybody.